Welcome to the District 2 first part of our club contest training. This training is going to be for all of the participants except for the judges. I'm going to go over some of the new rules, and I'm going to go over some places where you can find some really great information really easily. I look forward to having a lot of fun. As I said earlier, feel free to interrupt me if you'd like to. But before we get started, we do have some notable District 2 officers as well as chair people in the meeting. I'd like to let them introduce themselves, and we'll start right at the top with our PQD Director, Program Quality Director, Linda Vorthman. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, thank you, Chris. Program Quality Director, Linda Worthman. I am responsible for all the contests in the district. Thank you. Back to you, Chris.
Thank you, Linda. Next, I'd like to introduce our District 2 Contest Chairperson, Karen Axelrad. Would you like to introduce yourself, Karen?
Thank you, Chris. Hi, I'm Karen Axelrad, and I will be the contest chair for our district contest. So I'm here to make sure I understand everything.
Thank you, Karen. Next, I would like to introduce our Advanced Training Chair, Karen, and I always say your last name incorrectly, Karen Lazan.
That's correct.
I practiced that for 30 minutes last night.
It's just two syllables. It's Karen. It's the other Karen that you have trouble with, and you did very well. So good job.
I practiced
Yes.
both your names last night.
Yes, thank you.
So yes, and besides being the D2 Advanced Training Chair, I'm also one of the division directors, as is the other Karen with a C. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing, making sure I am up to date as well. Thanks, Christopher.
Thank you so much, Karen. And last, I would like to introduce our Assistant Chief Judge. Almost said that wrong. Please help me welcome Kent, and I've never said your name right, Bridenstine.
Very good. Yes, Bridenstine. Thank you, Christopher. And I've been chief judge in the past. I've put on many area and division contests. Much experience in there, and appreciate all the effort that does go into, and really enjoy the job of mentoring new chief judges and contest chairs.
Kent is one of the chief judges who mentored me in my role, and I will be asking him many questions as well. Two great minds. All right. So now that we're ready to go forward and we're going to have some fun today too, because I don't do those trainings where this is the rules. I'm going to show you where to find a lot of information, because I am a true believer in when it comes to training, if you show someone where to find the information, they won't call you. So let's go ahead. I'm going to share my screen. Just everyone let me know when you see my screen, and you should be seeing the d2tm.org website. Is that what everyone's seeing? Give me a thumbs up. All right, we got a thumbs up. So we're going to be working from the D2TM website. Reason being is there's been a lot of work done on it. We've had a great webmaster who's got a lot of things in place that need to be where they need to be. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to talk about is the contest. Where do we find all the information? Now you can go to Toastmaster International. I'm sorry, just one moment. Sorry about that. My youngest was coming down here, and because she wants to be on the camera. Whenever Daddy's on a Toastmaster meeting, she wants to come here. So if we could edit that out, please, Linda. All right, I apologize. So we're going to look at the d2tm.org website, because a lot of the shortcuts here go exactly where they're supposed to do because of our awesome webmaster. Now, how do you get to those shortcuts? Well, if you're like me, initially, you're going to go up and down and say, hey, where's all the contest stuff? But if you go to club support, hover right over it, and it actually goes right down at the bottom. I scroll down a little bit. Contest. So go ahead and click on, what you do is click on the contest, and you'll get to this web page. Now you'll notice there's the official TMI contest web page. There's the 2022-2023 speech contest rulebook. This is the current rulebook as of right now. And if you want to, we're going to go ahead and just click on this one real quick. Then we'll take a look at the contest rulebook. And I will tell you, it's not a bad book, but don't try to memorize it in one sitting. There's a lot of information here. It's actually, as you can see, 28 pages long. Why they have that? But I do want to point this out because it does have a lot of information right at the end. And we're going to be talking about these at the end. So that's our rule book. And we're going to be talking about some specific things in it. And we're also going to be talking about all these forms and item numbers, because you can actually purchase these from the new, from the new shop, or you can download them. I'm going to show that to you in just a little bit. That's right. I like to use cliffhangers in my training. So now that we've taken a look at that, I'm going to go ahead and go back to d2tm.org. Why? Because I can. And I'm going to go back to club support, go all the way to the bottom and click contest again. And you're going to say, Chris, you already shown us this. Why are you doing it again? Well, repetition never hurts, right? The other reason, and what we're going to be spending most of our training time on today, is the official TMI web contest webpage. Now, this link as of right now does work, but I would highly recommend every once in a while testing it, because TI is still making changes to the website. But we can just go right here and click it, and it takes us right to this nice website right here. And you can spend a lot of time in this website, and we're going to spend that today. And as you can see, it talks about the contest rulebook, speech FAQs, definitely something you want to look at, online and hybrid contests. And you say, well, what about in person? There is no in person this year. That is the rule. It's either you can do an online only or a hybrid. You have to have a virtual component in your contest. And you could talk about, you could look at the regional quarterfinals and the semifinals and do all this really, really fun stuff. But the one part that we're going to concentrate on is the speech contest. Now, I do want to recommend, and you're going to see as we go through this, make sure you always scroll all the way down, because we're going to be using some information down here too. So, excuse me, first things first. Let's talk about the rules. Now, there have been some substantial rule changes that you do need to be aware of. And the first one, if I click on the right one, there it is right there. My tabs are out of order right now. Apologize for that. The first thing that you need to make sure that you know about, and you can actually find in the red lines here, is how contests are conducted. Specifically, and this is very big because this is new this year, eligibility. It used to be if you had a competent communicator manual or completed or level 1 and 2 of a pathway, you're good. Now it's pathways only. So if you have a member who's been in for a long time, has not enrolled in pathways, and wants to use their CC, competent communicator manual, to qualify, that does not qualify anymore. And they also, with the red lines, only members who joined Toastmasters prior to the rollout of pathways. Again, this is all about the CC. So if someone says I've got a CC, says I have a CC, doesn't work anymore. And you need to make sure also with the eligibility form, when you download that, which I'm going to show you in a little bit later, that you have the one that says pathways. It has to have the CC taken out of it. CC doesn't qualify anymore. So any questions on that?
The legacy DTM still does qualify, though.
I'm sorry.
The legacy DTM.
So that I'm not sure.
I can tell you for sure that is a fact.
I'll have to double check that.
Thank you.
As I understand it, but basically you have to, it says according to the eligibility pathways 1 and 2, but I'll double check a legacy DTM.
Well, it says right there, pathways 1 or 2, or a DTM. I'm telling you, it
Okay.
counts if it's like.
All right.
I have a question also. So it's still, if you are a fairly newly chartered group, it still means that the participants do not have to have level 2 in pathways. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
If it's a newly chartered club, and I believe it's within the year is
Right.
what the rule states.
Yeah.
And that's actually that part right here. And then as Linda was saying, yes, the it doesn't say legacy distinguished Toastmaster, but I'm kind of assuming that it is legacy. That's why I'm not 100% sure, because you were asking about this, Linda, this phrase right here. I think you're a DTM, it just counts forever. That is my interpretation of the rule if I were asked. That makes sense to you why I was kind of a little wishy-washy on that one? Can people hear me? Okay. Just was making sure. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on. So again, just be clear, CC no longer counts. DTM will always count forever, or at least as long as I'm chief judge, or they won't reward it. So the other, another really big rule change, and this has been one that's been kind of, actually I found out you have to make sure that for eligibility, the member has to be in good standing, but also, and this kind of goes back to what you were asking about, Margareta, they also have to be in a club in good standing. They've made it club in good standing as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move down here for a few more of the other red lines. All right, we don't have to really, they basically with these ones, they just made them easier to understand. But this one right here, speech subject and preparation. This is a big one. I know last year we had a few people who actually got disqualified because of this rule. So it's been clarified during their speech. This is the rule where if, say, Margareta, you gave a speech about wildflowers, and then I said, and just like the picture of Margareta's background when she was giving her speech, boom, that's a disqualification. But if it's during the interview, that's not part of the speech. If I say, Margareta's flowers made me feel so happy with her background, that is not disqualification. So that is one of a big rule change. And I do know, unfortunately, last year, a few people did in their interviews mention their fellow contestants.
Can I ask a question on this?
Shoot.
So you can't reference, another speech that was given during the contest. Can you reference like a speech that you heard during a club meeting or something that's not being given at the contest?
Yes. As long as it's not someone who's competing in that contest. Basically, the rule, it's basically so that you're not biasing for or against a later speaker. That's kind of the rule you want to keep in mind. So yeah, if you want to say, I heard this wonderful speech by Robert Metzler, and he's the person who's going to be competing after you, that's a disqualification because that could be biasing it. Because you may be referencing his speech that he's about to give. So it goes both directions.
Okay.
Chris, my name rhymes with Alka-Seltzer.
All right. Meltzer.
You're not the first person who gets that wrong.
All right. Thank you.
Believe me, that's why I started to reference the way kids used to kid me when I was just a tot. Yes. Bob Meltzer, Alka-Seltzer. There you go.
Got it.
No problem.
Well, as I said earlier, I worked with both Karen's names last night. I practiced for 20 minutes just to make sure I got those right.
Hey, you're doing good.
Thank you. So that was a great question, Karen. Any further questions on that? All right. So one last thing I want to say before we go on, if you reference, say, you're in area 20, and then someone else in we'll say area 31 in their area contests. If someone in the area 31 contest references someone from the area 20 contest during their speech contest, that is not a disqualification. Now, if they both make it to the division level and the area 31 contestant does that, that is a disqualification. This is one of those rules that have tripped up a lot of people. So basically, it's during the contest.
So, okay, so Chris, so not to get too deep in the weeds here, but again, just to be clear, let's say we have an area and we have Division E, and area 51, 52, 53 are all having their contests together in the same session, but they're technically separate contests. Can you reference a speech from a different area that went that day, even though it's a different contest?
Until it's still they're still contesting until all the ballots have been collected. So, and again, it might, if you reference from, and this is kind of, I guess this is maybe, I'm thinking about this one. We may have to take this one back for a discussion. I would say yes, in the strictest terms. If the contest, if you have not announced the results yet, it can still influence the judges and cause a bias. So I would say no.
I would suggest that we research this one further just to be sure, because I'm pretty sure that if you're going to have, 3 contests in one session, after the first contest, they would collect the ballots.
Mhm.
Then they would move on to the next contest and then collect those ballots, and then they'd move on to the next contest. So
again, it goes in, you have to look in the other direction. If one person's heard another one in a different contest and they reference it.
I know, I'm just saying that I think we should research this to be sure, because we're talking disqualification.
I will check into that, but as of right now, unless I get instructed otherwise, I would consider, let me rephrase that. It doesn't matter if I would consider it a disqualification, it would be the voting judges who would decide if it's a disqualification. But I just want to make sure everybody is aware of that rule is during their speech. It's been reworded. All right, so we're going to go ahead, we're going to move on. And the last thing I want to really bring up is when we talk about the timing, because I actually found out that this is something that has happened. You'll notice right here, it says timers must not consider fractions of a second. The rule is basically you got to be between 4:30 and excuse me, 7:30. If you have a stopwatch though, and I found out that in a couple districts, people got disqualified by 1/10 of a second. So that's why it is clarified. We don't care anything past the second. You don't even see it, just ignore it. So if they're at 7:30.9, that's 7:30. If they're at 4:29.9, that's 4:29. And I didn't make that fractions of a second thing up. That's right here. Now you're going to ask me, Chris, how did you get to this? And you can see all the other red lines, but these are the three that I really wanted to make sure everybody was aware of. You're gonna say, Chris, how did you get this? Well, I went over to the Toastmasters International and I went to International, and they got this nice little kit. And if you actually download this, it's in this kit. And this kit that you can download, I've tried it, has all the things you're going to need for your contest. Go ahead and go back. So for your contest, go ahead and just download those, and you have all the up-to-date forms. So you don't have to go and find all those forms at the end of the excuse me, at the end of the rule book. So any questions on how I got there?
Could you refresh my memory on how you got to the document with all the red lines in it?
All right,
What were we just looking at?
so this one right here,
Right, but how did you get to it?
so it's basically the way I got to it. I went to the Contest International, went to Internet Speech Contest Resources International, and downloaded the International Speech Kit. Just click download kit.
But that looks like that's the forms and things. You weren't looking at a rule book or something?
That's where it came down, although I'm having some issues having it come down again. So I've actually also, and I'm going to go ahead and start sharing these with you. I also saved all my, I always save all my links too, because they've been changing them around a little bit on me on a almost sort of weekly or monthly basis. So I'll go ahead, if you want, I'm also going to put it in the chat. So you could actually just click right on that link and it'll take you to the same spot.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So any other questions?
So if I looked at the rule book up above, that doesn't have it nicely laid out like you were just showing us?
You're talking about this speech contest rule book?
Yeah, that doesn't have the red lines and things like that?
Not unless you do the search and find the right one. It is there, but you have to actually do the search. And if you click on that, and that's a great question, we're actually going to start going through that in just about 5 minutes.
Okay, I can wait.
But yes, no, it does not have that there.
Okay.
And it looks, Robert, looks like you had a question. All
Nope.
right.
Thank you very much.
All right. So the next thing I do want to point out is there is a good speech FAQ. And there is a lot of great questions that have already been asked. And one that has come up many, 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 many times. It's all the way at the bottom. What are the rules regarding usage of music, media, or props in a speech contest speech? Here it is. So now going forward, you can use virtual backgrounds. You can use PowerPoint. You can use props. Keep in mind, you want to look at the special contest rule book because it says the prop must be visible on the screen when you start your presentation. You can't reach off and pull it in. So it basically, you have to be able to have it on the screen because the rules basically say it has to be able to be removed, put in and removed during the 1 minute of silence. And you have to prove to the contest chair that you can do that. And that's one thing we are going to talk about more in depth because this is one of those rules that comes up and kind of makes people a little bit, for lack of a better word, a little bit confused. And that was probably the biggest filler word you will ever hear me use ever again. But again, this FAQ has a lot of really great information in it, and you can actually click on it. And some of these do have links. So any questions on that FAQ form?
Chris, I just have a question about the props. So you're saying when somebody is giving a speech, now you said, I'm assuming this means an online speech, the prop has to be visible the
Yes.
whole time that they're
If
giving
we
the
were
speech.
doing, if you're doing hybrid, it has to be visible on the camera as well. If you're doing a
Okay,
hybrid. Basically,
okay, and
you
if
cannot
you're
reach
doing
off-
a PowerPoint, which they consider a prop, how is that being visible the whole time?
they have to have it loaded and up and ready to go at the beginning of the speech. They
Fair
can't
enough.
start during.
Okay,
So who do they need to notify if they're using a prop?
They need to let the chairperson know and have to prove to the chairperson that they can bring it up and take it down within the allotted amount of time, which is 1 minute.
Okay, so I'm sorry. I think I didn't quite follow that. So if they're using PowerPoint, the PowerPoint itself has to
Has
be
to be
turned
up.
on before they start,
Correct.
and they have to leave it on the whole time? They can't turn PowerPoint on and off during the,
They cannot. They can put a blank screen. They cannot turn it off. If they're using a prop, it has to be visible on the stage, which is your camera, the entire time.
and PowerPoint is considered a prop in that sense.
Yes. Same thing if you're using a virtual background, it's considered a prop.
So your virtual background has to be the same the whole time?
Correct. Now, again, same thing with PowerPoints. You can change it to another background, but that means you have to do it while it's actually the other one's still up. You can't take one down and put one up because then you've taken out of visual. So the rule, the simple rule, and we don't have to get in the weeds on this one. The simple rule is that if you're using a background, if you're using a PowerPoint, it has to remain on the screen, visible for your entire presentation, and it has to be able to be put up and taken down. So if you're not ready when you're brought onto the screen and you're having equipment issues where you can't get your PowerPoint started, you have 1 minute and then you're announced.
Actually, it needs to be during the 1 minute of silence
Yes.
is how the rules state,
Yes, that's
not while you're speaking.
no, that's what I was clear. I was saying during that 1 minute of silence, you have to put it up, and technically, once you're finished and they take you off camera, you're when you're shut down by the webmaster, when your camera is closed, if you still have it up, that's fine, but you have to leave it up. And then if you're basically, if you have both of them up at the same time, the next person coming up and the person going down, those coming off the stage, they have to stay up.
So that means you couldn't, like, say technically you wanted a virtual background, you can't switch your virtual backgrounds during your speech.
You
Right.
can switch your virtual backgrounds as long as you don't take one down and bring the other one up.
I don't understand the distinction.
Okay. Let's I'm gonna do this real quickly here, Karen.
Okay,
If I did this, I'm gonna choose my virtual background. I'll just use the standards. Right now, everyone sees I have a blade of grass.
Mhm.
If I change it to, if I went ahead and changed it to my island theme, the virtual backgrounds never came down. They changed, but they did not come down. But if I went grass, none, and then went to beach, that means you've taken your virtual background as a prop has been taken out of the frame at some point during the speech. That's the difference.
okay.
Chris, you say that it has to be during the 1 minute between the speeches. What if the
Correct.
first speaker wants to use props?
They're they again, once they have been brought to these brought up. Now, okay, let's take this back one step here.
Mhm.
Online, the person's going to be said, okay, your camera is active. Once your camera goes active, it should happen during the 1 minute of silence. That's your 1 minute.
Okay, So the first speaker really just has to be ready.
Correct.
Okay.
I just had a question, and it's really clear already, but just a confirmation. So it has to be either online or hybrid. Obviously, a live presentation wouldn't do. So you have to have, you can have it live, but then you have to have it on the camera as well.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
I'm
Now
sorry,
we,
can I
now
please?
this, I was gonna say, just to bring up Margareta, though, we have made a decision, the trio has made a decision, and it was voted on that all contest area, district, and division will all be online. Now, your club contests, you have the choice between online and hybrid, but for area, district, and division, they're online.
Right.
Was that what you were about to say, Linda?
Yep.
And
Okay.
also club level, you can do what you want. It could be in person also.
Exactly. But then you better know, if they used to meet in person, they better know that it's going to be online. So they have to practice that as well.
Exactly.
Mm,
It's, I mean, it's up to them.
actually, according to the rules that Karen, is at the club level, it has to be online or hybrid. There is no in-person only. That
At
is
the
one
club
thing.
level?
Even the club level.
Wait,
There-
hold
no-
hold the fort. When did
I'm
that
sorry, I
happen?
disagree. I disagree with that.
Yeah,
Clubs
I
can
don't
do
think
whatever
so.
they want. If they want to draw straws, they can just draw straws. They're not even required to hold a contest.
Okay, I'm just going by what the leadership letter said, and it did not distinguish between areas, area, division, district, and the club.
Tell you what, why don't we pull the leadership letter and include it with the YouTube video when I send out an email? You can send me what you were reading and we'll send it out as a reference.
Okay. All right. So now that we've talked about that, and again, and I'm thinking basically, I'm going to kind of go through again where to find all this information. If you have any challenges to these rules, again, that's why we have the District 2 judge, chief judges, and we can discuss this. But a lot of these, again, the disqualifications, I just want to make sure everybody's aware to find where to find this information. So again, just want to show a couple more, like example, this one right here. I believe this is the one I wanted to find. Can my district conduct in-person contests? In-person contests with all on-site will be only if district selects hybrid format and all contestants elect to participate in person. You must provided the opportunity to select the format that works best for their circumstances. If all contestants choose to participate in person, judges and functionaries may still participate in the online format. So, and again, you can go through these FAQs, and some of them might, some of them do clarify some of the leadership letter. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on with this. So, but any questions on, sorry, excuse me, any questions as far as where to find this FAQ and how to go through that? Now, for the most part, I did not find anything that really contradicted the rule book. There are some things here that were not in the rule book. So this is one of the governing documents that will be used as far as when we're deciding on rules and understanding of rules. All right. So now we've gone through, we looked at the speech rule book. We've talked about the speech contest FAQ. There are some really great videos, and I'm not going to make you watch them. They're actually very good. I'm not going to win an Oscar or anything like that, but they will get you at least the basics of understanding. Example, best practices for online hybrid contests. Go through this. How you appear best online. There's also some stuff you can actually give to your contestants to say, hey, this is how you're going to look good online. There's also video recording guidelines for online and hybrid contests. Now, I will let you know that we actually have had a meeting, and we're putting together an FAQ sheet for District 2. There were some additional things that we had discussed that we're going to go ahead and put out on our website, as well as send to all the presidents and VPEs of all clubs, because especially the VPE, the Vice President Education, they're kind of in charge of the contest for the club, unless they farm that out to and find another chairperson, someone who needs an HPL somewhere in there. So again, these are all really good to use. And you do also want to make sure that if you're doing any type of recording, you want to follow the recording guidelines. These are all kind of fun here and stuff, but this is the one that I really want to spend a lot of time with. The speech contest. Now, I'm not going to go over the judges ballot today. That's actually in our January meeting, but we're going to go over the overview of the roles. So you can go ahead and click on that. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start it and then pause it. Just one moment.
We all know that this is.
So this is when you look in the contents over here, these are all the discussions of all the various roles. Now there is one that is missing, your webmaster. Now I do know that Karen Axelrad is going to be putting together a training. I don't know if we've decided on a date for that yet, for Zoom masters. Karen, have you
Yes.
decided on a date for that yet?
Yes, there will be a specific training for Zoom masters. I really encourage people to send people to this because we need to train more Zoom masters, and it's a really fun role. And it is the last Thursday in January at 7 p.m. I believe that's around the 26th. If you hold on, I could look at my calendar real quick. Yep, it's January 26th at 7 p.m. and there should be a link right on in the calendar in D2TM. If it's not there yet, it will be shortly. So yes. And we will talk all things Zoom Master. It should be fascinating.
I look forward to seeing it. I've only been a Zoom Master once for a contest, so it would be good to get a good refresher on that one. But we're going to go down this list here real quick. We just talked about the Zoom Master, and there will be a training for that. But a few things as far as the Zoom Master that we do want to bring up as far as the contests go is, first off, there will be for the judges. In the past, we've said, hey, for your anonymity, we're going to label you Judge 1, Judge 2, Judge 3, Judge 4. And then you turn on your camera and we know who you are now. So we're going to recommend this year that judges keep their normal names. If your name is Joe Brown, you put Joe Brown. Now, when it comes to the contestants, we're going to go ahead and have an _ contestant. So we know who the contestants are, because we're going to know them anyway. The only other people like that we're going to have to keep anonymous will be the ballot counters. We're going to know who the timers are, but your chief judge, you'll see my name on there. It'll say Chief Judge Chris Ralla or Kent Bredenston. I almost said that right. Any dignitaries like Linda, if Linda were there, she would put in PQD, Linda Vorthman. But anyone who needs to remain anonymous, they're just going to put their name in. So if they turn their camera on at the end, when everyone says, okay, let's say, congratulate all of our contestants, which we want to make sure we do, you want to do that. You want to say, congratulations, turn on your picture, yay, or clap, whichever. So any questions on that? The other thing I almost forgot, the other thing that we do want to discuss is when we come in, you will the Zoom Master, and Karen will be teaching everybody how to do this. The Zoom Master will be taking off profile pictures. There will be no profile pictures, because that was one point of contention at a couple contests where people were having really bright, grab your attention profile pictures that were related to their speech. And there were some concerns about bias there. Everybody, We're all gonna have our name, that's it. For example, if I weren't in there, that's what you're gonna see. But I know everybody wants to see my face, right? All right, that was a charity laugh right there. So now we're going to talk about, we've talked about a little bit about the speech contest. You do have your contest chair. And one thing I don't like about this particular video, if you click on it, it will just start. So your contest chair, their job is basically, they're putting together the contest. They're going to be finding the chief judge, especially for your area contests. They're going to be putting together the committee. They're going to be finding people to work as part of the contest. The chief judge can help as far as finding judges and qualifying judges, because there are some rules regarding who can and cannot judge, which we'll talk about in January. But they're also going to put together, they're going to download that nice little kit that I showed you. They're going to perform, or they're also going to set up any pre-briefs. They're going to be in charge of, excuse me, they're going to be in charge of the contest briefing and finding the contest toastmaster. Pretty much the only thing the contest chair doesn't really have to do is the role players briefing. That's done by the chief judge, and the drawing for speaking order, which is done by the contest toastmaster. Everything else, you. Next thing, chief judge. We've already discussed that. The big thing the chief judge has to do, other than collecting various forms, is they have to do the pre-brief of the contest officials, the contest roles. I'm going to skip judges till January and tie-breaking judge until January. Now we're going to talk about timers. There's 2 timers, although they're not recommending, if you look in those best practices I showed you, 3 timers. Because if you have a technology issue, you want to make sure that you have 2 timers. Now, one thing to keep in mind, timers, once you're done, you're going to have a form that's part of that kit. You're going to give that to the chief judge. If there is a discrepancy between the times, the discrepancy favors the contestant. So let's say one person said they spoke for 4 minutes and 29 seconds. The other said 4:30. It means it qualifies. If one says, hey, they spoke 7 minutes and 30 seconds, the other one says 7 minutes and 31 seconds, they still qualify at 7:30. It's if they both agree they're outside the time parameters. And there actually is also in this section here, it goes over the speech that the timer is going to be giving to explain the timing rules. They don't have to go through all of them. They just have to go through the international speech contest, because that's the only one we're doing. Now, the ballot counters, this is one of my favorite jobs, because the ballot counters are in the know. Once the judging is completed, we've reached the end of the speaking time, and the toastmaster will say, please remain silent until all ballots are collected. And that's one thing we were implementing for District 2. We're taking out that 2 minutes of silence because it takes more than 2 minutes. So just please please remain silent. And during the moment of silence, everybody should be silent. That includes the toastmaster. We're not turning on any videos. We're not turning on mics. Actually, and this is in the rules, that the person that should break the silence is the chief judge, who will indicate that all ballots have been collected. That breaks the silence at the end of the contest. So any questions on that? All right. And then, of course, once we go into our breakout room, we'll go through and we will go through all the ballots. We'll score them. First place gets 3 points, second gets 2 points, and third place gets 1 point. Once everybody agrees that it has been counted properly, that'll go, and they qualified for time. That information goes to the contest chair. You have your winner. Any questions on how to score? Now, these are the briefings I was just talking about, and you're going to want to go through them. You want to make sure that all the contestants know the rules, timing rules, rules about referencing other speakers, things of that nature. Now, this is one I want to spend a little bit of time on, and you want to make sure your Toastmaster is, the Toastmaster for the contest is following something that does not cause any bias. In the past, we have had complaints about our first contestant, our second contestant, our third contestant. Nothing. They should all be the same. Contestant, Rob Smith. Contestant, Barbara Williams. Or don't even go one step further and just say Bob Smith. I'm the best. I'm the best. Bob Smith. Barbara Williams. Bob's not the best. Oh, actually, technically that would break the rule. See, it's really easy to break that rule, huh? But again, nothing that says first, next, nothing that can create a bias. Any questions on that? All right. So like I said, after the speeches, we'll collect the ballots and we sit there quietly until whomever is the chief judge says, Toastmaster, I got all the ballots. See you in a bit. Peace. Or however you want to say. You probably want to be a little more formal than that, but you get the general mise-en-scène. And then again, we'll move on to contestant interviews. Now for the division contest, the district contest, we're kind of doing it contest, and then we're going to do the interviews at the actual conference the Saturday following. So for a week, there's going to be 4 people that know who won the district. And we've all decided that we're gonna rent a really fancy hotel in Las Vegas so no one can get a hold of us. And we're hoping the division will pay for it. But that face says no, Chris, that was a bad joke. All right. So once we've done, again, once you've announced the results, there we go. You've completed the contest. And the last thing for the contest after the results are read is that the chief judge will ask the chairperson, may I destroy the ballots? So that's the roles in kind of a nutshell. I know we've gone over a little bit. We had a few animated discussions today, and there's a few rules that we do need to go back and revisit. But is there any questions that you've thought of during this presentation that you would like to maybe bring up now? And if we don't have the answer, we can go back and investigate.
This is Karen. I have not a question, but a comment. I have created spreadsheets that take the place of the paper forms because we're all in front of our computers anyway, that judges can use for their scoring, that the ballot counters can use for tallying their ballots. And I will work with Alex to get the set of spreadsheets up on the website in that general contest information area that Chris pointed out. So that's a good resource that you can share with all of your role players. It also has a sheet the timers can use. It's kind of an all-in-one. So that should be coming soon.
Thank you, Karen. Any other questions or comments?
Do you plan to provide links of what you showed today so I can include it in the email that goes out with this recording?
Yes.
Awesome.
You won't have to spend the 2 or 3, or I think in this case, 6 hours I did finding all these links. I provide them all for you. As a special parting gift. So Kent, was there anything as one of my mentors as far as district judge goes that you would like to add?
You covered everything very well, and I was looking at the counts on the areas. We do have one area with 6 clubs, or one division with 6 clubs. Division C only has 12 active clubs currently, so that it does make a difference on whether a division decides to have all their contests with one set of judges or not. So most of them.
That's actually a good thing to bring up too, Kent. I didn't bring that up in this presentation. If you are in an area that has 4 clubs or less, the clubs can send 2 competitors each.
Active clubs.
Yeah, 4 active clubs. Thank you for that, correcting me on that one. So if you're if you're in an area that has 4 active clubs, 8 weeks before the contest, we looked at that one up. That was a fun one rule to find. 8 weeks before the contest, you get to send 2 excuse me, 2 of your members. So, and I think kind of one thing that Linda did say, and I just also want to bring it up, in that case also, there, as many of you may know, you don't have to hold a contest at the club level. You can vote someone forward, but if you do hold a contest and they get disqualified, and they may be the only speaker, but if they go over time, they're disqualified, they cannot move forward. So again, if you want to, you can have them test their speech, but if you actually do a official contest and they're disqualified for time, or they're not original enough, they cannot move forward. They cannot be voted forward.
I recommend clubs hold a club competition versus a contest, because if somebody goes over at 7:32, they're disqualified if they call it a contest.
Yes, exactly.
So
how do you
if they
define the
call it a
difference?
competition, that allows them to vote for the person with the best speech and then edit that speech down for a presentation at a true contest.
So then you just don't have judges and you just have the entire club vote?
You can have judges, you can have the entire club vote, either way works, but you don't.
Well, if you're having judges vote, that is a contest, so it doesn't
It's
matter what the
just they
name
fill
of
out-
it is.
In
Yeah.
my mind, and the way I interpret it, it's official if you do the paperwork. If you don't
Right.
include the paperwork, it's not an official contest. I guess that's, again, like I said, nothing's official until the paperwork's done.
But I recommend not calling it a contest unless you really want a contest.
Correct. It's
That
sort of
sounds
like-
like, that sounds like great advice. Just call it something else and then do whatever you want.
Exactly. And kind of to like, I think kind of with what you brought up, Karen, as far as, and we'll check again, we'll check the leadership letter, but if say your club only meets in person, at that point, then you can just exactly what Kent just said, and then whoever won, vote them forward, knowing that they will be online for the rest of the competition season.
Makes sense. Also, if you look in the FAQ where it talks about the hybrid and stuff, if you look at the very first question, it specifically says area, division, district. It doesn't say anything about clubs. And in my mind, that's sort of indicating that all the stuff they're talking about is at those levels, not the club.
That is correct.
Again, it's an interpretation. I would say that that would be correct as well. I'm just going by the strongest letter of the law just to kind of warn you in case someone does actually say, hey, this was done incorrectly, and tries to contest the contest. Again, gray areas are always you have to discuss those out. You don't want to make a decision right away. You sometimes have to find wiser people. But like I said, like what Ken said there, for the area, for the club contest, You can vote them forward. You can actually hold a full on. We filled out the paperwork before we did the contest. Now, if you do it afterwards, all they have to do, again, you're just voting them forward after if you don't do the paperwork. All right, any other questions?
Chris, I do recommend clubs use, or that all members have the judging ballots
Yes,
so that they do know what the criteria will be at the contests.
absolutely. I'm talking about the eligibility forms and things like that.
Okay,
If they
yeah.
don't fill those out, they could do the club bio. It's the eligibility form. That's the of all the paperwork you have to do for the contest, that's the most important one. If you submit that, you are contesting. You are in a contest. If you submit it after you do your contest, it wasn't we did something cool. And then we voted you forward. But then when you get to area, as Karen said, area and above, rules really start to kick in.
But if they're not qualified at the club level and then they move forward to area and then it's later discovered that they weren't qualified at the club level,
They will
then
be
they're kicked
disqualified.
out.
Yes.
Right. So you might as well just run it appropriately at the club level.
Well, and again, like I said, as long it's that really fine tooth, fine edged sword there, where if you, because I've actually in 2017, I just got voted for when I won the district the first time. My club voted me forward because no one else wanted to do the contest. So again, the club has those options. Area, division, and district.
Yeah, by area, they have to have their level 2 completed. And I have seen at the club level where they have presented their final level 2 project to get that completed so that they were legal for the
Yes.
area contest. But they did not have a club contest. It was a regular club meeting or competition.
Yes. Again, you're working in the gray areas of the rule until you get to there are gray areas in the rules until you get to district. Once you get to district, it is a contest. You are doing the paper. You can't be in it unless you've done the paperwork before it, and you have to qualify like we talked about. You either have to have your level 2 done, or you have to be a DTM.
We also have dues collection at that time, so they dues have to maintain the minimum of 8 members active.
Club in good standing, and you have to be in good standing. And one thing to keep in mind is just because for those of us who are in multiple clubs, the club you're contesting for has to be in good standing. You can't say, well, I know I'm contesting for club XYZ and they're not in good standing, but club ABC is in good standing and I'm in them too, so I'm good. No, you're not. If you contest for ABC, you're good. XYZ, you're not good. And that makes sense to everybody as well? All right. Any other questions? All right, so along with this video, I will forward Linda all of my links, and you can have fun watching the videos and reading all the manuals. I definitely recommend sit down when you do them, have some coffee. Some of them are very, very good, very, very entertaining, but reading the rule book, yeah, have a Red Bull. At least that's what I drank while I was reading it. So let's go ahead. I'm going to stop my sharing. And I guess at this point we can stop the video.
Chris, I can't thank you enough. You're obviously an expert. You've got a great mentor in Kent. And Karen is our contest chair for the district and is doing a great job. And Karen Lazan is in on the contest meetings that we've been holding, and everyone is holding a container for the contest this year. And I appreciate all of you and all the efforts. It is a lot of effort, and I appreciate all your efforts. So with that, Thank you.
No problem, no problem.